Hi, I'm Alan Holman. I'm the curator at the Hampton History Museum. Welcome to our collection storage area. We wanted to give you a little behind-the-scenes look at the artifacts that we don't have on exhibit right now. Why would we not have artifacts on exhibit that we have in our holdings? Well, a couple of reasons. Most museums only put a very small fraction, 1 or 2% of their collections on exhibit at any given time. That aids in the preservation of the artifacts, meets conservation standards, but it also speaks to the dual role we have to play in the community. One being that of interpretation, which means the stories we like to tell you with the artifacts, and the other is preservation. That is the saving and keeping of artifacts that might otherwise be lost so that we can tell that story for you. So what I have here is one of my favorites that's not on exhibit now. It's called a transiting Thermatolite. It is a surveyor's tool, and this one was used and owned by Girard Chambers, Sr., Hampton's city surveyor, through his career. He came to Hampton in the 1880s, served as an assistant in the surveyor's office, being elevated to officially assistant surveyor in 1897, and then became the surveyor for the city of Hampton in 1903. Now, why is a surveyor important? Well, keep in mind that we're all, as the country is beginning to fill in, we're purchasing and owning property in a very formal way. And it's very important for someone to record those ownership deeds. And it's also important for them to document the actual geography of the area. And that's what the transit, called for short, is so good at. This particular transit was made by Buff Instruments in Boston, Massachusetts, the premier maker of those instruments, and they Buff began manufacturing them in the late 1890s, but the technology was kind of perfected right after the Civil War. So what we have here is a very, very sophisticated piece of late 19th century engineering. And I'm going to pull it out of the case here. It's kind of a heavy piece. It's cast out of brass, machined out of brass, has optics. And let me describe what you're seeing. Let me pull this aside so you can see a little bit better the information that the crate holds, which I think is hilarious myself. So what we have here is essentially a telescope, a compass, and a spirit level combined. And what the surveyor would do would be level this device on its tripod, and I'll show you the tripod here in just a second. Perfectly level, then use the telescope, which has a crosshairs in it, to focus in on a Stadia Rod, which is a measured stick with increments of measurement on it, that he would then put at the distance of the area he actually wanted to document in great detail. So this type of machinery has been in operation since the 1860s. They're still in use, although they're electronic now. They really weren't surpassed in their accuracy until the 1970s, 1980s. So one of the interesting features of this piece of machinery is that the optics are very, very sophisticated. I'll show you how it goes together. This is a sunshade, keeps the optical lens out of the direct sunlight. And in the back, we have your eyepiece. So again, keep in mind that this is on a eye-level tripod. As it goes together, the surveyor looks through here, out here, and then he focuses. And I think in my mind that it looks like a submariner focusing in on a ship to launch its torpedoes. There's a crosshairs here that will focus in on the Stadia Rod. So what this allowed them to do was measure very accurately the boundaries of a property, the contour of a property. So they could measure within thousandths of an inch the elevation and the changing in elevation of a property. As a matter of fact, Buff Instruments said that their transits were accurate to 3/10,000ths of an inch over 11,000 yards. So think about using this device to measure elevation to within 3/10,000ths of an inch between here and Hampton, and 11,000 yards is about 6 miles. So you would be in the Naval Base Norfolk, and we could measure that accurately. So Interestingly, the Buff Manufacturing Company gives you instructions on what to do with the transit should there be an issue. And one of my favorite bits of information here is it says, it is definitely necessary in case of any repairs or essential adjustments that this instrument be at once returned to the Buff and Buff Manufacturing Company, Jamaica Plains, Massachusetts. Send it to us to avoid incompetence. So they were quite concerned that anyone else might try to repair and modify their own machinery, for which they had such a wonderful reputation. Now, just real quickly here, I want to show you, this is the tripod, which that device screws off of its base plate, screws onto this tripod, and then is leveled from there. And this is the Stadia Rod. You can see the increments that you would focus on. This one telescopes, so you can probably go up to about 15 feet. So from one part of the property, 1,000 yards away, he would focus the optics of the transit and find the perfectly level point on this Stadia Rod, and he would be able to tell you the difference in height between the location he is and the location of the Stadia Rod. Do that all over the property, dozens of times, and you have a really accurate measurement of the contour of the property. So, thank you for joining us in our collection storage area, and I hope to talk to you again soon.